This moment is not a continuation. It is a turning point. 2026 is calling for a reset in thinking, a restart in action, and a refocus on what truly matters. The question is not whether this year will change, but whether you will. Ladies and gentlemen, 2026 is not asking for your permission. It is not waiting for you to feel ready. It is already moving, and the only question is whether you are moving with intention or drifting by default. Because here's the truth. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And that's why it's time to reset, restart, and refocus. A reset doesn't start with the world. It starts with ownership, not blame, not excuses, not pointing fingers at the economy, the system, your past, or people who didn't help you. Ownership says, if my results aren't changing, then my decisions must. You don't reset your life by wishing for a better outcome. You reset it by choosing a higher standard. And until you take responsibility for where you are, you'll never earn the power to decide where you're going. But hear me clearly. You cannot restart your future while dragging your old identity with you. Some of you survived seasons that shaped you, but survival mode is not success mode. What kept you alive will not take you to the next level. Restarting means releasing old habits that no longer serve you, old mindsets that limit you, old versions of yourself that were built for smaller goals. You are not dishonoring your past by outgrowing it. You are honoring it by refusing to stay there. Focus is not about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. Consistently. Distraction is expensive. It steals time, it steals energy, and eventually it steals destiny. You don't lack potential, you lack concentration. In 2026, clarity will outperform talent. Those who know why they wake up will always outperform those who are merely busy. Refocus your time, refocus your attention, refocus your priorities. Because what you focus on grows and what you ignore fades. Hope is not a strategy. Motivation is unreliable, but habits are faithful. You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall or climb to the level of your systems. Small disciplines done daily create massive outcomes over time. The life you want is hidden inside the routines you're avoiding. Change the habit, change the trajectory. A vision without execution is just imagination. Talking about what you're going to do doesn't build anything. Planning without action doesn't produce results. Execution is where faith meets effort. Execution is where belief turns into evidence. In 2026, don't just visualize it, build it. Don't just declare it, demonstrate it. This year will not reward excuses. It will reward discipline. It will not elevate comfort seekers. It will elevate decision makers. Growth requires separation from distractions, from low standards, from environments that normalize average. You don't need more time, you need more intention. So reset your mindset, restart your commitment, refocus your direction. Because 2026 is not just another year, it is an opportunity. And opportunities only work for those who do. A reset begins with radical ownership because nothing meaningful changes until someone decides to stop outsourcing responsibility for their life. Radical ownership is the moment you look in the mirror and say, if my results are not where I want them to be, then my decisions must change. It is the refusal to blame circumstances, people, timing, luck, or history. It is understanding that while you may not be responsible for everything that happened to you, you are fully responsible for everything that happens next. Most people want to reset without accountability. They want new outcomes with old thinking. They want progress without discomfort. But ownership is uncomfortable because it strips away excuses. It forces you to confront the truth that your habits, your standards, your priorities, and your consistency are producing your current reality. And that truth is not meant to shame you, it is meant to empower you. Because the moment you take ownership is the moment you regain control. Radical ownership means you stop saying, I can't, and start asking, how can I? It means you stop waiting for permission, approval, or perfect conditions. It means you stop negotiating with procrastination and start honoring your commitments, especially the ones you made to yourself. Ownership says, no one is coming to save me, so I must save myself. And in that realization, strength is born. When you take ownership, you no longer see obstacles as excuses. You see them as assignments. You understand that growth is not something that happens to you, it is something you choose daily. You recognize that success is not blocked by lack of opportunity, but by lack of preparation and follow-through. Ownership shifts your language, your posture, and your behavior. You stop reacting to life and start directing it. A true reset also requires owning your past decisions without living in regret. Regret keeps you stuck, but responsibility moves you forward. You don't reset by replaying yesterday, you reset by learning from it. Ownership allows you to extract wisdom from failure without carrying the weight of guilt. It teaches you that mistakes are not identity statements, they are data points. And data, when used correctly, becomes direction. Radical ownership also demands honesty about your standards, not the standards you talk about, but the standards you tolerate. The level of effort you accept, the distractions you allow, the discipline you avoid. Your life will always rise or fall to the level of what you permit. When you own that truth, you stop demanding change from the outside world and start enforcing change internally. In 2026, a reset will not come from louder affirmations or bigger goals alone. It will come from quieter decisions made consistently, decisions to show up when it's inconvenient, decisions to do the work when no one is watching, decisions to hold yourself to a higher bar even when no one is holding you accountable. That is radical ownership. Because when you fully own your actions, your mindset, and your direction, you reclaim your power. And once power is reclaimed, a reset is no longer a wish. It becomes inevitable. Restarting requires letting go of old identities because you cannot build a new future while clinging to a version of yourself that was designed for a different season. Many people say they want change, but what they really want is improvement without transformation. They want better results while staying emotionally attached to who they used to be. But a restart is not a continuation with minor adjustments. It is a deliberate decision to release what no longer fits the direction you are choosing. Every season of life demands a different version of you. There was a version of you that learned how to survive, how to adapt, how to endure. That version deserves respect because it carried you through moments that could have broken you. But survival is not the same as growth, and endurance is not the same as expansion. If you keep operating from an identity built for survival, you will sabotage opportunities that require confidence, clarity, and courage. Old identities show up in subtle ways. They show up in how you speak about yourself, how you limit your goals, and how quickly you retreat when things become uncomfortable. They show up in stories you keep telling about why things didn't work out, who you are just not meant to be, and what success is supposedly not for people like you. These stories may feel familiar, but familiarity is not evidence of truth. It is simply repetition. Restarting means questioning the narratives you've been loyal to. It means recognizing that who you were in a moment of pain, lack, or confusion does not get to define who you become in a season opportunity. You are allowed to outgrow old labels. You are allowed to evolve past expectations that were placed on you when you were smaller, younger, or uncertain. Letting go is not betrayal, it is alignment. There is discomfort in releasing old identities because they feel safe. Even limiting beliefs can feel protective. They excuse us from risk, from responsibility, from the possibility of failure, but they also block the possibility of success. A restart demands courage because it asks you to step into unfamiliar territory without the crutch of who you used to be. It asks you to become a beginner again, not in skill, but in mindset. Letting go of old identities also means releasing attachment to past outcomes. You are not your previous failures, and you are not permanently defined by past wins either. Both can trap you if you let them. Growth requires humility. The humility to admit that what worked before may not work now, and the humility to learn new ways of thinking, leading, and executing. As you restart, you must consciously choose a new identity that aligns with where you are going, not where you have been. This identity is built on intention, discipline, and vision. It is reinforced by daily actions, not occasional inspiration. Every time you choose consistency over comfort, focus over distraction, and responsibility over excuses, you reinforce the identity of the person you are becoming. Restarting is not about erasing your past, it is about repositioning it. Your past becomes a reference, not a residence. It informs you, but it does not imprison you. When you let go of old identities, you make room for growth that feels expansive instead of forced. You stop trying to prove yourself and start becoming yourself. In 2026, a true restart will not come from doing more of the same with better intentions. It will come from a deep internal shift, a willingness to release who you were so you can fully step into who you are meant to be. And when that happens, restarting will no longer feel like starting over. It will feel like coming home to a higher version of yourself. Refocus means choosing clarity over comfort, because comfort rarely leads to growth and clarity rarely feels easy at first. Most people don't fail because they lack ability, because they live distracted lives. They allow comfort to decide their schedule, their priorities, and their pace. Refocusing is the decision to stop drifting and start directing your energy with intention. It is the moment you decide that ease will no longer be your compass. Purpose will. Comfort whispers that you have time, that urgency can wait, that tomorrow will somehow be better than today without requiring different action. Clarity, on the other hand, demands honesty. It forces you to confront what truly matters and what is merely noise. Refocusing begins when you separate what feels good in the moment from what produces results over time. That separation is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Distraction thrives in comfort. It hides behind entertainment, busyness, and endless options. It convinces you that staying occupied is the same as being productive. But clarity exposes the truth. Activity without direction is wasted energy. When you refocus, you stop asking, what do I feel like doing? And start asking, what must be done to move forward? That shift alone changes everything. Refocusing also requires saying no, often to good things, to make room for the right things. Comfort avoids boundaries, clarity enforces them. You begin to guard your time, your attention, and your mental space with intention. You realize that every yes costs you something, and every distraction delays your progress. Refocus is not about doing more. It is about doing less with greater P. Rescission. Choosing clarity over comfort means confronting uncertainty instead of escaping it. It means sitting with difficult questions instead of numbing yourself with distractions. Questions like, where am I actually going? Why do I want this? What am I avoiding? These questions do not offer immediate relief, but they offer direction. And direction is far more valuable than temporary comfort. When you refocus, your standards change. You stop romanticizing ease and start respecting discipline. You understand that clarity is built through repetition, daily actions aligned with long-term vision. You don't wait to feel inspired, you act because you are committed. Over time, what once felt uncomfortable becomes normal, and what once felt normal becomes unacceptable. Refocusing also sharpens your decision-making. You become less reactive and more intentional. Instead of responding to everything, you respond to what aligns. Instead of chasing every opportunity, you commit to the ones that matter. Clarity simplifies. It removes confusion, reduces stress, and creates momentum. Comfort, by contrast, complicates and delays. In 2026, refocus will be a competitive advantage. Those who choose clarity will move faster, think sharper, and execute with purpose. Those who choose comfort will remain busy but stagnant. Refocus is not a one-time decision, it is a daily practice. Every morning, you choose whether to drift or direct. Every moment, you decide whether to protect your focus or surrender it. When you consistently choose clarity over comfort, your life begins to align. Your actions match your goals. Your habits support your vision. And progress, once slow and uncertain, becomes inevitable. Refocus is not about pressure, it is about precision. And precision is what turns effort into results. Your habits decide your future, not your hopes. Because hope without structure is just wishful thinking. Many people genuinely want a better life. They hope for growth, stability, success, and peace. But wanting something does not create it. What creates results is what you repeatedly do, especially when no one is watching and when motivation is absent. Your future is being built quietly in your daily routines, not loudly in your intentions. Habits are powerful because they operate whether you feel like it or not. They don't require excitement, inspiration, or perfect conditions. They simply require consistency. This is why two people with the same goals can end up in completely different places. One relies on hope and bursts of motivation, while the other relies on systems and disciplined behavior. Over time, systems always win. Most people overestimate what hope can do and underestimate what small, repeated actions can become. They wait to feel ready before acting, not realizing that readiness is a byproduct of action, not a prerequisite. Habits remove decision fatigue. They eliminate negotiation with your emotions. When something becomes habitual, it no longer competes with excuses. It just gets done. Your habits are constantly casting votes for the person you are becoming. Every choice reinforces a direction. The way you start your day, how you manage your time, what you consume mentally, how you respond to pressure, all of these shape your trajectory. You don't wake up one day with a successful life or a stagnant one. You build it quietly through repetition. Hope is fragile. It fluctuates with mood, circumstances, and external validation. Habits are stable. They anchor you when emotions shift and when life becomes unpredictable. On difficult days, hope may fade, but habits carry you forward. That is why discipline is not about punishment. It is about protection. It protects your future from your inconsistency. Changing your habits requires honesty. You must be willing to examine what your current routines are producing, not what you wish they were producing. Results never lie. If your outcomes are not aligned with your goals, your habits are the misalignment. This realization is not meant to discourage you. It is meant to empower you because habits can be changed one decision at a time. You don't need to change everything at once. Small habits, practiced daily, compound faster than dramatic changes attempted occasionally. Consistency beats intensity. What feels insignificant today becomes transformative over time. The future you want is not built in a single breakthrough moment. It is built in ordinary days, repeated with intention. As habits change, identity follows. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does. Confidence grows not from affirmations, but from evidence. Each completed habit becomes proof that you can trust yourself. That trust becomes momentum, and momentum becomes progress. In 2026, hoping for change will not be enough. The people who move forward will be the ones who replace emotional motivation with structured discipline. They will understand that success is not a feeling, it is a pattern. When your habits align with your vision, your future has no choice but to follow. Vision must be paired with execution, because vision alone does not create results. It only creates awareness of what is possible. Many people are rich in ideas, dreams, and plans, yet poor in outcomes. They can clearly describe what they want, where they want to go, and who they want to become, but clarity without action remains imagination. Execution is the bridge between intention and reality. And without it, vision never leaves the mind. Vision gives direction, but execution gives definition. Without action, vision stays abstract and unproven. It feels inspiring, but it produces nothing. Execution, on the other hand, is often unglamorous. It requires discipline, repetition, and persistence long after excitement fades. This is where most people disconnect. They love the idea of success, but they resist the process required to achieve it. Execution exposes commitment. Anyone can talk about what they want. Few are willing to do what it takes consistently. Vision makes promises, but execution keeps them. It turns belief into behavior and goals into measurable progress. Without execution, vision becomes a distraction, something you think about instead of something you build. True execution requires starting before you feel ready. Waiting for perfect conditions is a form of procrastination disguised as preparation. Clarity comes through movement, not contemplation. Each action refines the vision. Each step reveals what works and what doesn't. Execution is not about getting everything right the first time. It is about moving forward and adjusting along the way. Execution also demands discipline over motivation. Motivation is emotional and temporary. Discipline is intentional and repeatable. When execution is tied to discipline, progress continues regardless of mood. This is how momentum is created. Small actions done daily carry more power than occasional bursts of effort driven by inspiration. Vision without execution often leads to frustration. You see what could be, but you don't experience it. Over time, this gap between desire and reality creates self-doubt. Execution closes that gap. It builds confidence through evidence. Every completed task becomes proof that the vision is not just possible, it is in progress. Pairing vision with execution also requires prioritization. Not everything you can do matters equally. Execution means focusing on the few actions that produce the greatest results and committing to them full. It means saying no to distractions, shortcuts, and false urgency. Focused execution multiplies impact. In 2026, the difference between those who advance and those who stagnate will not be intelligence or talent. It will be execution. The world is full of brilliant thinkers who never acted and consistent executors who quietly built extraordinary lives. Action creates leverage. It turns potential into performance. When vision and execution align, progress becomes inevitable. You stop waiting for permission and start creating momentum. You stop talking about the future and start constructing it. Vision sets the destination, but execution determines whether you ever arrive. 2026 demands a higher standard, not more excuses, because excuses have never moved anything forward. They may offer temporary comfort, but they quietly reinforce stagnation. Every excuse you accept becomes a ceiling on your potential. This year is not interested in explanations, justifications, or reasons why things are difficult. Difficulty is assumed. What matters now is how you respond to it. A higher standard begins with personal accountability. It is the decision to hold yourself to expectations that do not depend on mood, convenience, or external validation. Excuses lower standards. They normalize inconsistency and reward inaction. A higher standard does the opposite. It demands consistency even when conditions are imperfect. It asks you to show up fully, not occasionally. Most excuses sound reasonable. Lack of time, lack of support, lack of resources, fear of failure, past disappointment, but reasonable excuses still produce unreasonable results. They may explain where you are, but they will never take you where you want to go. A higher standard requires you to stop negotiating with these explanations and start operating with discipline. Raising your standard means deciding what is no longer acceptable. The effort you give, the habits you tolerate, the distractions you entertain, the environments you remain in. Growth begins when discomfort becomes preferable to stagnation. When staying the same feels more painful than changing, elevation becomes inevitable. A higher standard also changes how you speak to yourself. You stop rehearsing excuses internally and start reinforcing responsibility. Language shapes behavior. When you consistently tell yourself that something is too hard, too late, or too risky, you unconsciously give yourself permission to stop trying. Raising your standard means aligning your inner dialogue with your future, not your fears. In 2026, external circumstances will continue to fluctuate. The people who rise will not be those with perfect conditions, but those with unwavering standards. They will do what needs to be done even when motivation is absent. They will choose long-term progress over short-term relief. They will understand that discipline is not restrictive, it is liberating. Excuses keep you tied to the past. Standards pull you toward the future. When you raise your standard, you no longer ask, can I do this? You ask, what is required? That shift removes emotion from execution and replaces it with commitment. You stop relying on feelings and start relying on systems. A higher standard also demands separation. Not everyone can go where you are going. Some habits, conversations, and environments will have to be released. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. You cannot expect elevated outcomes while maintaining average inputs. Standards dictate direction. 2026 is not a year for half effort or conditional commitment. It is a year for decisive action and personal integrity. When you raise your standard, excuses lose their power. And when excuses disappear, progress accelerates. This year will not change because you want it to. It will change because you demand more from yourself and consistently live up to it. As we step into 2026, understand this clearly. This is not a year that will be defined by chance, luck, or circumstances. It will be defined by decisions, by the standards you choose, by the actions you repeat, by the focus you protect. Nothing about the future changes until you do. You now know what is required. A reset that begins with ownership. A restart that releases old identities. A refocus that chooses clarity over comfort. Habits that replace hope with consistency. Vision that is backed by execution, and a higher standard that leaves no room for excuses. This is not theory. This is a framework for transformation. The question is no longer what you want. The question is who you are willing to become to deserve it. Because the next level of your life will demand more discipline, more courage, and more integrity than the last. And that is not a burden. It is an invitation. 2026 does not need a new version of your goals. It needs a new version of you, one who acts before feeling ready, one who shows up when it's uncomfortable, one who chooses progress over permission and discipline over delay. If you commit today, fully, intentionally, without negotiation, this year will not simply pass, it will produce. And when you look back, you won't remember 2026 as just another year. You will remember it as the year you decided to lead yourself differently. The moment is now, the standard is higher, and the responsibility is yours.